Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a Ko-Fi, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and X. Now, we are joined by Refracted Curvature, Brian's Logic, Neil, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hello.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello, good to have you all. We've got a couple of videos lined up. We might be covering the Quantum Eraser today. Depends. We'll see if Quantum Eraser, namesake Quantum Eraser, that is, John, joins us later. If so, we'll hopefully cover a bit of Quantum Eraser goodness, or more specifically, the delayed choice Quantum Eraser. And we've also got a video that we're going to be covering that's critiquing Mark Sargent, new to us, so it'll be a typical Flat Earth Debate response video in the respect that we've never seen it before and are responding to it as cold as you can get. So we'll cover those that were provided earlier by, I'm going to say, Sensual Goat. Is that right?
Correct.
So
That's
thank
correct.
you to Sensual Goat. But yeah, we'll cover those after a few housekeeping questions. So, any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Our pilot's correct.
You and your reference frames have been ruined.
Yeah, Simon Dunn's misinterpretation of how the globe Earth needs two reference frames to assert 15 degrees an hour drift, only to turn around to me and show me how there's no drift and claim that my reference frames are ruined, just shows a total lack of comprehension of the globe claim in the first instance, which requires two reference frames. So yeah, ruining them isn't a good idea, Dan.
Sorry, Brian, go ahead.
I don't think that was any evidence of. Okay, you did come off mute, Brian. Did you want to say something?
No, I was just saying that I asked earlier, the pilot's correct for this axial rotation. Because if they don't correct for it, then what could someone offer you? Do you know what I mean? In the way of evidence. Evidence of what?
Well, the axis is derived if you're going to describe the world as having antipodal positioning derived from the flat Earth elevation angle measurements within the celestial sphere model. If you infer two flat planes sandwiched antipodal with the sphere of the heavens from both a North Pole centric and South inferred pole centric system, both flat but sandwiched on top of one another to make a nice convenient perspective-based sphere, which you don't have, and we don't have antipodal positioning. What we do have is representations from what we describe as the south, with what we could describe as a central point of the stars moving around, similar to what we have in the north, and then connect the two on an antipodal positioning system that is flat with the celestial sphere wrapped around that. That's where you get to a sphere to then have both hemispheres projected out as the protractor you measured those systems in and call that a globe. So the reason I've gone through all that so early in the show is because I've quite enjoyed going to the commenters and pointing out when they say, hey, check out my heliocentric Ptolemaic-based Keplerian refined system for predicting eclipses. You're like, that system's derived from measurements of a flat Earth. So if you want to call it a victory, you can call it a victory for the heliocentric model, but in terms of asserting that that is actually where we stand, the model itself is derived from measurements of where we stand, and that's flat, because that's how the systems have come to pass. So it's unlike previous years, far more tolerable for me in the comments responding each morning to people when I can just say, yeah, you'll need a flat earth for this. If you're going to claim that heliocentrism is giving you great predictive capabilities of the stars, and therefore we're standing on a sphere, it's like, no, the sphere in mathematics came from flat earth measurements of angles to the stars. So this is a victory for a flat earth and a sad indictment to your reification of a model that came from that flat earth that happens to be globe-shaped. That's not what we're standing on. Great model, though.
But they use the solar cycle, which is pre-globe. The solar cycle is what they use. It's what NASA uses to predict eclipses. And if astronomy are doing anything, they always presume that the astronomer is at the equatorial plane at equinox, so there's no tilt, and that plane extends out into the celestial plane, and that's a big stationary plane, and the stars move, and the heavenly bodies move, So they don't have anything.
Right.
They just presume they have.
Well, we now have a better understanding of where things like, let's ask this question, any scientific evidence of gravity?
Which one?
Well, that's the point, isn't it? We know the origins of a force and how it was superseded 109 years ago. And therefore we can describe the bent pseudo-Riemannian force space-time that isn't a force in a conceptual mathematics that's been designed solely to hold you to the ball as a force, but has now come to the point where their descriptions defy laws of nature, so they've taken into conceptual fourth-dimensional mathematics to make it that little bit more confusing. But if you understand the origins of gravity and its lack of scientific validity, or its existence in physical reality at all, especially when it comes to 4D space-time, you can then show your opponent how this part of the religion of heliocentrism functions. Now, if you're going to describe things like buoyancy in terms of how things move in various vectors depending on the medium they're in, then that's useful to understand if you're going to be dealing with weights and such like. Now, because of the religion of this country and many others, we would teach our children that there's a force of gravity that pulls things down. Now, I mention it because it came up today in a class that my daughter was doing. And I'm very, very proud of, obviously, both of my children. But in this instance, I was exceptionally proud because the art teacher started talking about gravity. And she asked specifically my daughter, do you know what that is and what that means? And her answer was, yes, I know what it means. It means things will go down. And she's like, yes, we will be dripping paint down these easels in a free-form way that's not about what you produce, but about the process of doing it. And she explains the process of doing this art that she's teaching them. Now, what my daughter didn't do is go, look at the clouds, look at a balloon. So after the class, I said to her, I'm very proud that you didn't challenge the teacher. You just understood the importance of what she was teaching you in art without asking her about how balloons work. And her response to me was, yeah, I did kind of think, or I think she said something like, I almost said, what about a balloon? It's like, but you didn't, because you recognise the importance of understanding how that's a religious belief, because I teach her heliocentrism in the same way I'd teach her any other religious belief, of which there's plenty in this country to teach them, because we celebrate all of them. So there's often stuff to provide my kids with, education on religion. And that's all heliocentrism is, with a useful practical application in terms of predictive capabilities for Easter. That's all heliocentrism is, an aspect in mathematics of a religion that's been reified into existence over the course of the last 300 years. But given that it is the predominant Western world religion, whether people are aware of that or not, doesn't mean that my daughter, in this example, can challenge people on that, especially when it's not necessarily relevant to the subject at hand. It's like, appreciate and understand that other people have beliefs, and just because you know the origins of this nonsense doesn't mean that you need to challenge others at the drop of a hat. And that's kind of, when I'm telling my audience, well, I don't necessarily concern myself with correcting people on heliocentric nonsense when I'm out on there in the real world, because everyone's entitled to their belief, unless they're challenging me, which is highly unlikely. Why would I want to correct them on their belief about gravity in this instance? For the purposes of dripping paint down a page, the Western world culture uses the word when anything goes down, gravity. Okay, you can accept that and understand what someone means when they use that word, and also appreciate that you've only got to glance up at the clouds to know that that isn't the case, that there's not a force holding everything down, precisely as described by the art teacher. And it's not always necessary to challenge these things, because why would you? Is it going to ruin that person's day? Good chance if you get into an extended debate about it. Is it worthy of the art in this case to challenge the fact that if you release a balloon up the art page, how is that relevant? Anyway, gravity, we do understand it, and we've got a better understanding and grasp, especially you and people like Sleeping Warrior especially, have got exemplary understandings of the origins of gravity. And what does that help us? Well, it helps us perhaps educate somebody who's ultimately going to still reify their globe faith, regardless of you explaining how it's conceptual, for example. They're still going to reify it into a force that's not a force that you can think of as a force by whatever acrobatics mentally that they need to perform to keep hold of their religion. That religion being that they're standing on a sphere, which I feel should be respected, even if we have got exemplary and advanced understanding of how that religion comes to pass with respect to its flat earth origins. We should still be respectful of people who don't know that and perhaps ease them into that
keep
knowledge.
Everybody in the dark, right, Nathan?
No, I'm saying we should ease them in. You just cut me off 2 seconds too soon. We should ease them into that exemplary understanding of how Earth is measured flat. You know, I'm not saying we should come as a wolf in sheep's clothing, but based on the fact that we know where the origins of the heliocentric model lie, who actually created them, why they were put into effect or useful, or how they had a practical application, and how that practical application in terms of the measurement of Earth comes with a flat Earth prerequisite. Now, understanding that, you can rephrase it in such a manner that will not necessarily trigger your average heliocentric, unconsciously or consciously aware of their religion person from their, belief. You just have to take them further into the steps of their origin without necessarily telling them that they're wrong. They'll come to that realization themselves if you give them the more in-depth understanding of where their religion starts and what it was used for. You'd have to say, you're wrong, we're not standing on a sphere, even though we aren't and they are wrong. You can say, how do you know where that idea originates? They're a lot less careful with us. Where's your flat earth belief coming from? Well, do you know where your understanding of that concept comes from? It's a lot more gentle if you then take them through the process of where the measurements of the stars give you a celestial sphere. Because that's where their origins lie, right? Why not just tell them? You have to tell them it's flat.
To a normal person, you might want to correct them and say, no, you don't believe it's falling down, you believe it's falling in. But that doesn't really work with the description she was giving of the painting, does it?
No, it was going down with respect to... In fact, that's what she went on to say immediately afterwards. She says, which way will the paint go? Is it horizontally or vertically? Now, they're all 6 and 7, and some of them are 5 in this class. So Eleanor immediately gets it wrong. Oh, it's going horizontally. No, it's going vertically. You're like, okay, so when we actually get down to the nitty-gritty of the concepts and the orientations, we're describing things with respect to horizontal and vertical, aren't we? That's what it really boils down to. But if you're going to tie them to their faith, if you're going to say gravity, okay, regardless of your misapprehensions, if they are heliocentric and Einsteinian, or if they're force-based and Newtonian, you can appreciate that the purpose of this force is to keep you on a spinning ball that isn't going to give you any useful information with respect to orientation. So when you actually come to describe down, it's useless when you come to it within a ball concept. And to describe it like the ball itself, you're going to have to start with flat earth concepts to get to the description, to hold you to the ball that's been reified out of flat earth measurements. So it's a constant hijacking of things in reality that you can actually measure horizontal, vertical, with respect to the plane, the horizon, whatever you're going to use, level. And then you go, well, how does that translate to the ball? It doesn't in any way, shape or form. And how you'll be functionally operating here will be with respect to a plane or 90 degrees to it. Fascinating
which
stuff.
gravity are you talking about there, Nathan?
Was that this repetition as though you're hinting that I hadn't actually answered you? I think I did a pretty good. I did answer you. Depends on the person. Most people think it's a force. It isn't currently. It's a non-force of bent space-time.
Well, the thing that debunks the claim of it being a force of down is buoyancy. Yeah, buoyancy is the thing they had to hijack and say was caused by things going down. So things going down cause things to go up. That's what they had to claim. That's because but that wasn't Isaac Newton. He never referenced Archimedes' principle. So other people came up with that nonsense, not Isaac Newton. So unless they can at least show it to us in the Principia Mathematica, if they can't do that, and they can't, then they're just making stuff up on the spot.
Isaac Newton did refer to an inertial plane with respect to up and down.
Yeah, but that's not buoyancy, is it? He didn't refer to Archimedes' principle.
No, but that's not what he's saying. That's not what he's saying. It's not. That's not the point he's addressing.
I know what he's saying.
Okay.
My point being is he didn't refer to Archimedes' principle. The thing that debunks what they turned his Isaac Newton's works into. So yes, he did refer to an inertial plane in respect up and down. I agree.
This must frustrate you to all hell, right, Brian? You're getting down to the intricacies and nitty-gritty, and the moment me or John see a flat plane being used, we're like, stop. And you're like, no, there's more to this. Yeah, you're right, there is. But he's going to need a flat earth for it, isn't he?
Yes, but there's a danger of, if that's done too much, it comes across as obsession to an audience member who may be new. They hear it too much. They might go,
I agree. I completely agree. You've got to caveat it, because if people just pick up on the halting of the discussion because there's been a flat plane utilised, which is often, then people don't get to the point where if somebody brings up an aspect beyond their hijacking and use of a flat plane, or don't mention it at all, they just move one step beyond it and start describing stuff that's already in existence in heliocentrism derived from the flat plane, then the person who hasn't heard that explanation from within heliocentrism doesn't know their route back to the flat plane to make that assertion. So we've got to have the discussions. But for a cursory viewer, once they hear the connection, as long as the connection is clear to how, in this instance, for a directional downward vector for Newton, he needs a flat plane to reference. And he does. Well, that's no surprise, but now that the full connection's been made, obviously it's still worthy of your full description within their plane of reference for the direction and orientation that takes the entirety, which is the concept of buoyancy, or what we more accurately describe as relative density, or the disequilibrium in relative density if something's moving in a vector, and then ascribe gravity to the downward aspect in a given medium, and then say that if something's going up, it's because we've got the force of the down, and we'll call the up bit the overall concept that's been used originally, which is buoyancy. So, yeah, once you know the trick, you can see the cards moving in the magician's hand, right, Brian?
Well, the real trick is the weight. Weight is the concept, because weight is only an apparent effect of buoyancy. Buoyancy you can describe and show, right? Weight, you can show weight as long as the medium allows it. Do you know what I mean? I can't show someone the weight of an anvil in the medium of mercury. Yet I drop that anvil on their foot in air and they're going to have probably permanent damage to their foot. But in mercury, their foot can be at the bottom of the thing of mercury and the anvil won't be touching it.
I've seen what happens when someone drops an anvil onto someone's foot. What happens is all four pores get really, really flat, and then they bulge up and pulse red. No.
Was it an Acme anvil?
It was an Acme anvil. That's what I was waiting for. Right, should we cover a bit more? We haven't even started yet. Let's cover not the quantum mechanics one, this one. Okay, so this video is called Answering Mark Sargent's Dumb Science Questions. Well, we'll be the judge of how dumb his science questions are. But nevertheless, let this guy know he is called RealNuclearPhysicist. Let him know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me with a pleasant comment. If you're going to go beyond actually just letting him know that I've sent you in his direction. The motivation for doing this, as he may be responding to this, if he is, hopefully he'll put a link to our video. That's the purpose of us sharing the YouTube algorithmic love with you from our meager audience that definitely doesn't receive any algorithmic love from YouTube. So were this gentleman to respond to us, we would hope he'd put a link to our video. In the meantime, as you can see going by in the live stream chat right now, and hopefully with a little bit of waffle from me, giving people enough time to actually go and do this, go and let me know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And just let him know that we've covered his video, and hopefully he'll join us for a response. We don't know. I'm cold. I don't know if this is going to be good
When
or
you
not.
say
Go on.
when you say pleasant comment, so that I can't start out with "yo moron." Do you even know what science is? Would that be pleasant?
Well, my call to action is just to let the audience know, to let him know that I sent them to him. That's it. You know, verbally on the show is obviously better than just me leaving a comment underneath, me posting the link as the live stream's going by, and literally calling people to action to do it right now. That is to say, go and do this now. I'll keep chatting about him and getting us to go to him while you're going to him to say, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me and he responded to your video, or at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me because they've watched 10 minutes of what we're about to do, and he's suggesting that you don't understand X. You know, it's pleasant enough to not get immediately removed by the videographer. If you go, oi moron, you think you lived on a reified sphere? Well, it was measured flat. You're going to get your comment removed immediately, aren't you? Well, I don't know that's the case. Some people are a lot more tolerable. My tolerance level for crap like that is very, very high, and a lot of stuff I let slide. As long as it's got a vague similarity to the debating point that's in the video, I'll let it slide most of the time. Some people aren't like that.
I sent you.
Go on, Brian.
Apologies. I sent you one of this guy's videos there some while back, and I posted it in Master B. I'm pretty sure I sent it to you and posted it in Master B. He is, you know, before you play the video, you know what you're dealing with. Real nuclear physicist. That means if you look at him, he looks like he's about 19, right? Maybe 22. So how long has he been working as a nuclear physicist? He might have passed his university exams, but he's not really a nuclear physicist. He hasn't really been working as one, maybe, for any length of time.
How do you know?
The point being is that, well, I don't know. I'm just saying by his age, he doesn't look like he's been a long term. By the look of him, he doesn't look like, but it doesn't matter. The point being is that he's coming at this topic with the title of his YouTube channel, Real Nuclear Physicist. So he's straight away leaning on an education. And he's supposed to be right because he has this education. So that's what you're dealing with. Don't expect, what I mean is that he's a real nuclear physicist, but don't expect a genius.
I don't know how it's going to help him in this discussion. I mean, is there some connection between nuclear physics and ball belief? I don't see how's this going to help him. I mean, it's his channel name, so it's not really going to change. Presumably his other content's not about this, right? But in terms of talking about Mark Sargent, I suppose he's tied it in because we've got some science questions being alleged from Mark. So there's a good chance, maybe let Mark know, because there's a fair chance we'll be critiquing Mark as well. Sorry, Mark. Oops. Right, let's get into this. I haven't actually sound checked this one. I did the other one. Hopefully this doesn't blast everyone's eardrums.
Today, we'll be taking on 5 questions that Mark Sargent sent a scientist.
Is that my sound, or has he got a bit of a speech impediment?
Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Heinrich and I'm the Real Nuclear Physicist.
Oh, it's an accent. Okay.
Today's video, we'll be taking a look at Mark Sargent's 2018 Flat Earth Conference opening speech, where he claimed
This was only done a month ago. I mean, Mark has got a very sort of set repertoire that gets subtly adjusted over time. But for the most part, you could take almost any of his interviews that were done yesterday and they'd be comparable to this. Why take something from 2018? I don't get it.
That he sent 5 science-based questions to a scientist and they refused to answer.
Okay,
Some
fair
months
enough.
ago, a German television team contacted me because they had heard about my science challenge and had found a physicist at Georgetown University I could debate.
Let's start there. I highly doubt that anybody
Was that a question? I thought you were going to talk about the questions that he was asking within. Oh, okay. Fine.
from a university would contact a flat earther saying that they found a physicist willing to take on your challenge in a debate. I think rather you sent them an email and said, I'm looking for a scientist. Yes.
What? Sorry, is this your standard? I mean, maybe ask Mark about why he said it in that way, and maybe you'd find out that he sent an email or was proactively contacted. But you don't know. You haven't got a clue either way. It's just purely your speculation.
There's 5 questions. I want them to answer. Please.
Go on, John.
Right. Well, we can say that why would a nuclear physicist respond to Mark Sargent? Nuclear physicist? Really?
I just picked up on that. Oh, the irony.
Just debunking his own standard.
Yes, exactly. Didn't pick up on that. Yeah, well done, John.
Have them answer and get back to me. Any scientist won't debate something that's already established fact. Debates are for opinions, and it's usually 2 sides of an opinion. You don't debate something that's already proven, because then there's no need for a debate.
They also wanted to make it as easy on the scientist as possible, so their idea was simple. They would record me on video, reading 5 quick science-based questions, and then send that recording over to Georgetown, and he would respond in kind.
Well, there you have it. That's also not a debate. Sending somebody 5 questions and having them answer is not a debate, that's a response. Rather say you requested a response from a scientist rather than saying that a university contacted you to debate a scientist.
This is what I read on camera.
Hang on,
1.
Nathan.
Long-distance photography. The mainstream science...
Did you do
Sorry.
Brian?
Yeah, hang on now a minute. So this guy has decided what actually happened was blah, 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 without any evidence for it. Because he's looking down his nose at Mark Sargent and looking up at a scientist guy, thinking there's no way this great person here in a university would ever be interested in addressing any of the questions of some stupid flat earther.
Really, Brian?
So
Really?
that means the stupid flat earther is a liar.
Really? You going to really come up with this?
Me? I don't have to. That's what he's after doing.
Yeah.
Listen to it again.
And on a completely different note, I don't think this guy's a nuclear physicist, right, Brian?
No, I don't care whether he is or isn't. The point is that he's after implying that no scientist would be interested. Why would a scientist be interested in debating this flat earther guy? I guarantee I'm right. I guarantee you. Listen on. You'll owe me an apology.
Hello, Adam.
Science formula for the curvature of the Earth is 8 inches per mile squared.
Okay. Well, sorry, Mark. That's not a science question. That's a maths question. So you're putting maths questions to a scientist. When you're talking about long-distance photography and then comparing it to Earth curve maths a la Black Swan, admittedly, this is 2018, right? So, sorry, this seems like an unreasonable standard to critique Mark in 2018, pre-Black Swan, for what is now post-Black Swan response. But you're going to be comparing Earth curve maths based on their assumption of radial values derived from flat Earth. Okay, fine. That's definitely not science, though. That's mathematics. Why is this being put to a scientist? Let's see if this guy spots that this is not a science question.
That formula isn't quite accurate at all.
So why would you have anything to do with physics in your title for your channel. You don't know what physics is. Formula's wrong. Physics is dealing with the physical and natural world, though. Physics. This is maths. So your first critique of Mark isn't that this isn't science, because it isn't. You'd expect you to know that, given that you've got a suggestive scientific title in your YouTube channel.
It's a parabola. And even if the Earth is not a sphere, it's definitely not a parabola. Let's derive a formula that's a bit more accurate. Let's start with Earth having a radius of 6,400 kilometers.
Where'd you get that? Let's start with it. Start by begging the question that Earth's got a radial value that's spherical? But that's a begging the question fallacy right out on its face, isn't it? Meanwhile, we know where your radial value came from. Elevation angle measurements to Polaris at their minimum, to give you something you call the equator. That's an area of equal elevation, a circle of equal altitude, using Polaris. That's a flat Earth that gives you that radial value. Has to be, because it's an angle measurement to Polaris. But that's your starting point. Not, let's just assume we've got a spherical radial value. No, let's start by measuring something to get that radial value. Oh, what will we measure? Well, we will measure a flat Earth for your presuppositional mathematics. This isn't science. Why am I pointing that out and you're not?
Sorry, I'm not going to do the miles conversion for you. With that radius, Earth has a circumference of 40,000 kilometers. This 40,000 kilometers means that 1 kilometer covers an angle of about 0.009 degrees.
Whoa. Sorry. If 1 mile, that's a mile on the surface, is representative of an angle representation, then you'll need the surface to give you an angle. What's this numpty done? He's immediately taken the angle to the centre of Earth with a radial value, because you can't get an angle from the surface to describe elevation angle changes with respect to a horizon. But that's what he's actually describing. So what we've got on screen is in real time now for my audience, his explanation for how flat Earth elevation angle measurements can be hijacked and turned into the protractor of a globe Earth.
Using these values, we can calculate a height formula from the point where you stand as h, which is your height, is equal to r, the radius of the Earth.
But your height isn't with respect to the radius of Earth. Look it up, stupid idiot. Height is with respect to sea level. Level. When we actually get our elevations, they're with respect to the surface, not with respect to a radial value. Because the radial value came from the surface and the minimum elevation angle measurement to Polaris. This is absurd. You don't even know your own rhetoric. And by rhetoric, I mean maths. Because this is definitely not physics. Why am I having to point that out to you while you do a load of maths?
Times 1 minus the cosine of the angle between you and your point. However,
the angle between you and your point? What's he babbling about?
This equation is still not 100% accurate, as it does not take into account the viewer height or the refraction, but still more accurate than 8 inches per mile squared.
Refraction.
An easy
Sorry. For a start, 8 inches per mile squared is not a parabola, number one. Number two, he just said that's not precise, the 8 inches per mile squared. Grant, I agree, Adam even showed it. And then he went on to show another not precise function. And then he brought in refraction. What has refraction got to do with geometry?
Nothing.
What has it got to do with geometry? Nothing. So why is he trying to add
What's
in
love got to do with it, man?
Yes. Hello, chocolate.
Did you say, what's love got to do with it?
That's how I felt. I felt the same way as Brian. Like, oh, look how refraction stuck its face into his little speech.
Yeah.
Wonderful, isn't it?
He needs to start bringing in refraction, which is not refraction, just mathematical refraction claims based off an R value that he's using that was never measured and can't be because of the mathematical refractive claims that get in the way of you ever measuring it. Do you know what I mean? And he needs to do that so he can bring the horizon up to the point where it will be in reality. And while his geometric globe edge will be somewhere underneath surface level as a horizontal plane.
Right, should we hear Mark's next question?
Easy comparison would be the falling rate of 32 feet per second. So 8 inches per mile per mile. 2 miles is 2 times 2 equals 4 times 8 inches, or 32. 3 miles is 3 times 3 equals 9 times 8.
Can you hear him rattling off a load of times signs? Yeah? That's maths. If you're not familiar with maths, listen to what Mark's saying. This is maths.
Or 72, and so on.
So on and so forth. Yes, I understand what you're trying to say, but it's still a parabola.
No, it's a squared function. Nevertheless, it's your squared function. It's not Mark's. Why are you telling Mark that he's got your claim wrong? Right? It's not an argument about whether or not your version of a claim to be point of dissolution in the distance derived from a flat Earth measurement of a surface level versus eye level infers that you've got a physical geometric sphere edge capable of measurement by Al-Biruni after he gets the height of mountains off a flat plane. Because that's where you'll need to get to your starting point. You said we'll just start with the radial value for a sphere Earth. That was your begging the question assumption. Now you're critiquing Mark for his paraphrasing of your version of your globe Earth maths that gives you 8 inches per the mile squared, as Mark just described, and critiquing him. It's very Simon Dan-esque. You're on the edge of telling Dan, telling me like Dan did, that my reference frames are ruined. No, they're only reference frames. Mark Sargent doesn't have a parabola. These aren't his maths, but you're critiquing him like they're his maths, like he's got your maths wrong. This is very much what they lay down if you go and do even modicum of research to try and infer that you've got a physical geometric sphere edge. 8 inches per mile squared is what you'll be thrown. You don't have to like it. You don't have to tell Mark he's wrong because of the standard, well-known bullshit claim of a globe Earth edge in physical geometric terms and where it's proposed to be placed at 8 inches per mile squared. That's not Mark's claim. Further to that, we've already debunked this claim in 2020 with the Black Swan. I wonder why he dropped refraction in there, right, Brian? Preempting something that he probably well knows, as this video only came out a month ago. Black Swan, mate. You haven't got a geometric sphere edge. To measure geometry from? What's that refraction? Nothing to do with geometry, then.
For accurate measurements of the hidden
Funny
height,
though
just use
how he started with that, right? But others claim that that's a straw man. The Earth being a sphere of a radius 3959 miles. That's a straw man according to some people. But this guy starts with that out the gate.
Yeah, they don't know how to reverse the burden properly, so they start telling us that we're claiming their claim wrong. That's what they like to do. Go on, Brian.
It's an attempt at character assassination. That's what he's doing. It's a weak attempt at the assassination of Mark Sargent's character. He's saying that Mark Sargent has an incorrect function, but then he turns around and gives everyone an incorrect function that he has to admit is incorrect. And like non-precise. It's like, what point are you making here, buddy? You just did exactly what Mark Sargent did, and Mark Sargent did a better job of it. So, where are we off to with this?
Yeah, but Mark Sargent did what? A better representation of the globe Earth maths?
an online calculator. There's quite a few of them. They take into account refraction as well as viewer height.
At 50 miles, the curvature is 50 times 50.
Viewer height is with respect to a horizontal plane of reference, though. It's with respect to sea level. When you say these globe Earth mathematics that are online that you can easily access, take into account viewer height, what, with respect to surface level? Yeah, your height in feet above surface level is sea level that they'll be referencing, so you'll need a flat Earth for your height. Go ahead.
Oh, he said viewer height and refraction. Do they take refraction into account?
When in a perspective view that uses a derivation of an R value measured off a flat plane to give you a 7/6 straightening out of the ball that's got nothing to do with the way that light moves. No, mathematically they're increasing the size of the ball with 7/6 of a radius value taken from a flat Earth measurement, chocolate.
Oh, Okay, because it sounds like he said refraction. That doesn't sound like refraction to me.
Again, he doesn't understand the language. Terrestrial refraction is what he'll be appealing to. Terrestrial refraction being 7/6 of a radius value in sphere-Earth geometry that is inferred in Earth curve mathematics. After the derivation of the geometry itself, which is incapable of, as Brian pointed out moments earlier, if you're refracting geometry, you're not doing geometry anymore. So when you just tell us to take as read your radial value, oh, how do you acquire it? Well, we already covered that, didn't we? Off a flat Earth.
Times 8, coming in at over
And
1600.
Thomas Andrew Young. Thomas Young showed that. He required a flat plane as well.
Yeah, they all do.
100 feet of curvature. And yet, with HD cameras, we can pull boats back into frame that are well beyond visual range.
Yes, you can pull boats back into view that hasn't gone over the horizon yet. This
Yeah, boats going over the horizon was debunked in 2020. Your appeal to a physical hill for boats to go over. You don't have one. Black Swan.
Mark Sargent just said, he said, boats that have gone outside a visible view. That means they've gone to a diffraction point. That is an horizon. Do you know what I mean? It's like they've reached a point where you can't see them anymore.
You mean the same one that was used as the brainwash while we live on a ball? That the same optical phenomenon that convinced us that we lived on a ball is what he's using right now? That's what you're saying?
Yeah, he's using,
he's
using a claimed mathematical point below surface level, marked with an X and labelled horizon, and inferred to be a hill blocking your view in the Earth curve mathematics. However, to derive that inference of a hill getting in your way for a boat to go over, to then zoom back in on it, and then you can watch it go over the hill again. No, if hills get in the way of things, and that's what the horizons claim to be, then once they go over that hill, the hill's physically in the way of them. But no, we can zoom back in, ergo, it hadn't already gone over the hill. You're like, in your mathematics, there is no optical resolution limit in your Earth curve maths. Everything stays the same feet and inches value. Go ahead, Chocolate.
But that's what I'm saying. That's the okie doke. So what is it? When do they decide what has gone over the curve, in quotes, and what has just disappeared into the horizon, like he's trying to use? So what, when it's capable of being brought back, oh, it hasn't gone over the curve, it's just disappeared into the horizon. But if you can't bring it back, oh, that's over the Earth curve, the physical Earth curve?
For them, there is no former. So there is only one assertion for things disappearing in Earth curve mathematics. Earth curve. Nothing disappears for any other reason. It's the only reason things can disappear. So if you take the Earth curve maths and have a measured distance at 6 miles, and you've got a little dinghy that's vanished. You look out to the horizon, you can't see the dinghy, it's gone. Okay, let's go to the Earth curve maths. Why is the dinghy gone? Because there's a hill in the way of the dinghy. Earth curve's got in the way. How do you know? Well, because if we measure the differential between surface level and eye level, we can infer this point in orthographic maths when we retain actual size at distance. So the 6-foot dinghy is 6 foot at 6 miles and will be 6 foot at 6 million miles and 6 foot at 6 billion miles. It's always 6 foot. Now, if I, by scale, put the dinghy in view and write on the line between the observer and the dinghy 6 million miles, that's perfectly acceptable in that view. Nothing will ever disappear, ever, because of its size. Because it's still just 6 foot and I can draw a line between the two things, right? So when something disappears in Earth curve maths and it's before Earth curve, why is it disappearing? Earth curve maths has no explanation. There's only one cause, Earth curve. So when they do the okie doke and say, well, that's just because it's not already gone over Earth curve. What do you mean it's not already gone over Earth curve? The only reason things disappear in your Earth curve maths that's hijacked flat surface level and parallel eye level with it to claim there's an Earth curve is Earth curve. That's the only thing you can infer. So when stuff disappears prior to that, what are you going to say? it's because it's too small, it's still 6 foot. It doesn't change with distance in orthographic view. You've taken the effects of perspective, removed them from the mathematics, and called them Earth curve. It's a hijacking of perspective. Hence, there is no optical resolution. Famously, infamously, when we had Kosho on 24/7, being asked this question, why is the bottom of this toy boat at 500 yards disappearing when there's no Earth curve yet? Oh, well, it's the optical resolution being too small. It's just the bottom being blocked by the minimum angle. It's like, no. That isn't the effect in Earth curve maths. There is no angle reduction. It's a 5-inch boat at all distances. So when Kosho told us it's because of the angular resolution, it's like, yeah, that's what happens at the distances, and you can bring these things back by increasing your focal length, giving yourself a bigger lens. Yeah, then it comes back. Yeah, because it's gone out into the distance, and for your eye, you can't resolve the angle anymore. So therefore, Earth curve got in the way. No. Resolution. Everything to do with the minimum angle. But that's not described when the boat is 6 foot at all distances. It removes all aspects of perspective. He just doesn't know that. Was there someone else who wanted to get in on that action before I play again?
No, I just wanted to point out that little trick that he does, and that they all do. It's it's really just, if it could be brought back, it's not over the curve. But if it can't, that's just over the curve. They could just decide which one they want to go with, depending on who they're talking to and what's the question being asked. It's very cute.
Image of boat.
Whichever.
You'll never be able.
Nathan, sorry, I to get in there just at the end of Joggler.
Yeah, guys.
What this guy is not understanding, guys, is that if he was asked where's the boat gone, he'd just say it's gone over the curve. Until someone showed him a video of it being brought back in to view. Now,
Exactly my point.
Yeah. So, you know what I mean? This guy will be just saying, that's our curve, it's gone over the curve until he's shown it being brought back into view. Then it's like, well, it hasn't gone over our curve yet. It's like, well, you were 100% sure it went over this our curve of yours. You know, the thing is you're talking about, that is, remember refraction you were bringing up earlier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, the next step beyond that is
refractive blockage.
I was about to say the next step beyond that is the item is way beyond like Chicago skyline. Well, then the item is a mirage. It's not really there. You're not really seeing it. That's the next step. Then beyond that, you've got, well, what if the item is visible and the Earth curve that's supposed to block it that you formerly said was refracting the item up to the horizon, that's Chicago skyline. What happens if the horizon itself is beyond the things it's supposed to be blocking? Oh, well, then not only is the item refracted, but the horizon itself is then refracted also, beyond the thing it's supposed to block.
It's being projected up like the bat signal over the curve to look like a flat horizontal plane.
But surface level is intrinsic to Earth curve mathematics. Surface level is a horizontal plane in those mathematics. The definition of horizon is where surface level appears to meet the sky. How is this helping him?
It's not. We didn't know that in 2015 when we argued, to the point where it was to our detriment to even enter into a discussion that included their Earth curve maths. Almost called it our Earth curve maths. But it back then wasn't. It was theirs. Now it isn't. We understand what the Earth curve maths is and its origins, where it came from. Optical resolution loss back in the 1800s for seamen. That's what it was used for. Then it turned into Earth curve maths. But the process of actually measuring for Earth curve maths requires a surface level as just described by refracted curvature. It requires you calculating a differential between surface level and eye level. Eye level must run parallel, and does in their maths. What does it run parallel to? That level, straight line for eye level, not bend, just to make that absolutely clear at this stage. It runs parallel to the surface level. That's where the maths begins. So you can infer the point of optical resolution loss is actually something that retains its actual size at all distances in an orthographic maths, is being blocked by a point below the surface level. Absurd. Not the case. But ultimately originating in a flat Earth measurement. So how does Earth curve maths help you assert we've got Earth curve? Beyond the title on the front of the book, Earth curve maths, it doesn't. Because it requires Earth to be measured flat. Like everything, all roads lead to a flat Earth. Earth is being measured flat with surface level in Earth curve maths. So beyond the retitling of what it actually functions as, an optical resolution calculator, or does it prove Earth's a sphere? No, it's just on the title. Like GPS or anything else that's got the word global in it. Global Earth curve maths does not prove Earth is a sphere. It requires we measure Earth flat. Like everything. Bit more video? Anyone else?
Just a side, just a side note. A big thanks to refracted curvature, because the emphasis on the plane of reference that they require, for me personally, has been the sharpest tool in my armory when talking about this to people. The elevation angle is great, the black swan is, but they always want to go past that, and wherever they go, they're going to require a plane of reference. So a big up to refracted curvature for that.
Sharpest tool in your arsenal. I've based my entire year on it. I've claimed it as my own and said it's my year. Earth's measured flat. It is. They need it more than we do, and I've even stolen John's quote. It should be the year of refracted curvature, really. I've just totally stolen it, and he's been humble enough to not mention it. But I even use his quote, "You guys need a flat plane more than we do." Because they do. That's where it all begins. That's where the measurements start. Anybody else? Anybody else? We can start a bit more of this video.
Yeah, but they don't know that.
Into view, no matter how far you zoom in.
Not only does the new technology clearly show that it's not a mirage, but the same objects can be viewed in infrared and can be...
Which bit? Him or Mark?
The bat who we missed when Neil shouted in.
It hasn't gone over the horizon yet. This image of Vogt, you'll never be able to pull that back into view, no matter how far you zoom in.
Not only does the new technology clearly show that it's not a mirage, but the same objects can be viewed in infrared.
Yeah, was he just showing an image of a boat supposedly behind a geometric horizon?
Yes. He's obviously picked this because he can cherry pick out some crappy old 2015 refutations from the globe side. Yeah? I say the horizon's Earth curve. Okay. Here's a picture of a horizon. Okay.
Earlier on, he was referring to refraction.
Why isn't everything looming up behind this horizon that he's presenting today? I would make a suggestion that the horizon today, he's claiming horizon, is actually a physical thing obstructing his line of view, i.e. it's a wave. You can see it swelling the thing. There's a reason things can't loom above it. And that's because there is actually a physical obstruction blocking your view. Something that doesn't happen in theirs. And they mitigate for why you don't see the physical obstruction obstructing things when it's Earth curve that's obstructing it at greater distances, yeah? But they're physical thing. So I would ask this guy, why then is everything else not looming up above with respect, which is what happens in all the other images when we see too far, according to them.
I'd just say black swan.
Yeah, but that's what they're going to try and do, isn't it? Look, today we've got a white swan. That's what he's trying to point out there. And I would say, yeah, lovely. White swan being, there is actually something physically blocking my view. There is a swell of the wave. There is physically something there, yeah? As opposed to what they claimed before, which is something being physically there, but then refracting down and everything else above, looming up above to give the appearance of a flat plane.
How far you zoom in.
Not only does the new technology clearly show that it's not a mirage, but the same objects can be viewed in infrared and can be targeted ship to ship by beam radar. Can science explain this?
Yeah, again, I think I've actually spoken to Mark personally.
Why would science?
I was just about to say, I think
Sorry.
I've actually had discussions with Mark personally since this, like in 2018, about science, what it is and what he means. And I don't think, Mark's refined his discussion points since this particular 2018 address. So I don't know why he's cherry picked this particular out. Maybe it's just because he sees it as low hanging fruit.
The thing is,
Yeah, but we
Paul
know
never
what
gonna.
he's saying, right? Sorry, Adam. Go ahead, man.
You go first, bud.
How you doing, brother?
Yeah, not bad talk. You.
Yeah,
Hanging in.
I'll
This
make
meet
a
and greet
point.
hour?
Yeah, well, except to you. We don't want to say hello to you. The point I make there, it's right. We'll critique Mark there for the use of that word, but there's only us that will critique it. Your rank and file baller will have no idea why we're turning our nose up at that point or having an issue with it. I wouldn't worry too much. And fundamentally, if any baller that would then like to bring that up as a critique, I'd welcome them for them to sarcastically define the term science, what it does and doesn't mean. That'll be useful in the debate going forward, wouldn't it? No.
The reason, and I'll keep it brief, that we've been harsh on Mark, and it seems unfair. That's why I'm a stuttering, stammering mess over these words about Mark, because I've had the discussion with him personally about what science is. I've had it with loads of people. Mark's not the only one. Now, maybe I should drop this in now, maybe I shouldn't. But when I tried to have the same exact conversation with David Weiss, he cut me down, wouldn't refuse to have the conversation, ended it abruptly. Very weird. Anyway, like I say, I've had the conversation with him. Mark doesn't necessarily make these what we would call mistakes, because they are, in terms of what science would be capable of being asked. That's a reification fallacy. In terms of what it deals with, that's cause and effect reasoning based on observed natural phenomena. These things are more prevalent in this community now. But from this guy's point of view, why isn't he pointing any of this out? If he's claiming to have science acumen and leaning on his scientific education or employment history in the title of his video, or the name of his video, or the name of his channel, sorry, why isn't he pointing it out? This isn't science. Zooming in too much. How does science explain that? Science doesn't explain that. It explains cause and effect. Go ahead.
No, but science does to them. That's what I'm saying. There's no way the vernacular he's using that we find objectionable, a baller will even pick up, because to pick it up, you've got to have your proper definition of science and take issue when people don't use the proper definition and go pseudoscience-y and claim it. That's way beyond his level of discernment at the moment. He wouldn't be able to realise that science doesn't say anything. Yeah? Wouldn't understand why we would object to that phrase.
Or doesn't explain why a piece of technology allows you to zoom in better. That's not explained by science. That's not within the purview of the scientific inquiry method.
Maybe it's just me, but when I hear him say that, I don't hear him really point, like, yeah, he's used the use of the word in that context maybe is a little off, but I don't hear him saying science really. I hear him saying, like, the quote science community, like the Neil deGrasse's, the Michio Kaku's, whoever claims to be the mainstream science community leaders. I think that's who he's pointing out to.
Yeah. What he means is, how do the heliocentric priests explain this one? That's what he's really saying. But because they call it science, because they have, and at this stage of Mark's flat earth endeavours, also was under the misapprehensions that science was a group of people like Tyson. And it's like, no, that's not science. Science is a method. But Mark knows that now. Like I say, this guy's just picking at low-hanging fruit. Wants to serve his ends for the purposes of this video, and what he wants to object to, Mark's got concisely summarised in this 2018 address. So that's what he's used. But as Adam pointed out, we would know that this doesn't fall in the category of science. And if you're going to claim science acumen or education or employment history, you should be pointing that out. But he doesn't know either, does he?
They had no answer.
Yes, science can explain this.
Science can explain the technology of camera zooming in. Well, number one, this is outside the science purview because it's not within the method of observing natural phenomena. seeing things through a zoom camera reappear. That's not an observed natural phenomena. Far from it. Furthermore, what you've just appealed to explain this non-phenomena is Earth curve mathematics. You've said hills get in the way. Black swan. No, they don't. We debunked Earth curve in 2020.
And in fact, science was used to create this.
Science wasn't used. The cameras, or the view, or the non-phenomena. This has nothing to do with science. This guy's a clown.
Now, beam radars projected in a conical shape with most.
What? Like, this guy doesn't know what science is. I don't know. Should I keep repeating it? Adam, rein me in.
Well, just let him make his claim, because that is the purpose of what I'm saying. If you don't know what science is yourself, why is he critiquing Mark? And this is why I wouldn't worry about what Mark does. He's a frontline salesman that gets people interested. It frustrates me when Mark gets critiqued a lot, because he's not out there doing anything different than what he did. And if all they've got to attack him is that, which is frankly showing their ignorance, I've got no criticism of Mark Sargent really in that sense. This guy, though, complete. Like I say, it's demonstrating that they don't know what science is. And he's doing an admirable job.
Of the energy at the center of the cone. This cone is projected towards the ionosphere, and it gets reflected to cover larger and larger distances.
He doesn't understand the beam radar that Mark is talking about.
No, he doesn't.
He's talking about the pencil beam radar. It's his line of sight.
Correct. So about 2 years before Mark did this, he had interviewed somebody who described how the pencil radar is literally painting the target 30 plus, or I can't remember the numbers, and I'll get told off if I even attempt them. So
50 miles. 50 nautical, 60 miles, 60 miles, 50
60
nautical,
miles 60. Away. You know, well beyond.
He claims 50, doesn't he? QE if you ask QE, he'll say it's a lot more than that, but in terms of official stuff, what they can claim is 50, I think.
Right, so he's interviewed somebody, and the person who he's interviewing has worked with this pencil beam radar for the Type 2 Sea Sparrow. And what he's done is explain to Mark, in the official available to the public information about this particular weapon system, you can, quote, paint a target 60 miles away. That is to say, you, whatever you are, 30, 40, 50 feet above the waves, are firing out a beam that literally hits the target so that you can keep that laser beam or whatever it is on the target as the missile hones in on the target, right? Well, that means that you must have direct line of sight with the target. There is no hill getting in the way, and that's what Mark's referring to. This guy's just heard the word radar. That's all he's heard. It's like, no, that's not what he's talking about. But he's not even bothered to do his due diligence on what Mark's talking about in this address. He's just bleeding lazy.
But he's bringing up
May I address what radar actually does?
Yeah, go on. Let's hear it from John. Might as well prove on a flat plane with this, because it does.
Right. You level a radar, and it takes an angle of incident of light, which is an angle measurement with respect to a plane of reference. So how is radar helping a ball-tard?
It isn't. Yeah, I like that. I use it as my permanent background if I need some motion on screen. I've just got my what I call radar screen. Yeah, it's about as good as it gets in terms of flat Earth proof, as far as I'm concerned. You know, in terms of if you want to appeal to technology. Well, then again, we're getting far more down to the nitty gritty of just how maps function at the moment, aren't we? You need a flat Earth for a compass. If we have a radar, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, let's get on a bit more.
Number 2, vacuum versus gravity. The force of a vacuum is measured in units of torr, T-O-R-R.
Now, vacuum force is a force proportional to the volume.
What? There is no vacuum force. What's he talking about? Furthermore, volume? You mean the area? The area that the gas is capable of filling? That's what you'll be describing it with. And how many molecules you've got and the amount of force that they will exert in a given area, arbitrarily described in the mathematics of vacuums, is what will define it, not the vacuum itself.
That is evacuated. whereas torr is a unit of pressure, not
Meanwhile, gas-filled spaces, that's what it does. You're debunking the sky vacuum by affirming any of this.
force.
He's
Even a
at
low-level
present trying
vacuum.
to convolute things. Listen to what he's doing. Torr is a measure of pressure. Yeah, that's correct. And we have pressure in what are called vacuums, because there's no such thing as an absolute vacuum. There's only real-world vacuums. There's a vacuum that's been claimed concerning the heliocentric outer space, and that would have a torr value of 10 to the minus 17 torr. So, where is it?
No, it's not what he's doing is...
He's trying to character assassinate Mark.
Yeah, it is. You're absolutely right. I said I'd give you an apology, and you've now proven you're absolutely bang on, right? Yeah, all he's doing is character assassinating Mark. Mark says 8 inches per mile squared. Oh, what an amateur. He doesn't understand this claim. Mark says 10 to the minus 17 torr. Oh, does this guy not... excuse us. These are fairly well-known rhetorical nonsenses from the heliocentric model that Mark's just parroting off, as in parroting off your claims. And all you're doing is repeating back your globe claims paraphrased by Mark and saying they're wrong. It's garbage!
Can overcome gravity here on the surface.
Even your
Back in the days when flat earthers were talking about how something could overcome gravity.
arms can overcome gravity when you have to throw them up in the air and say,
How does that cloud not come down?
I don't know what's going on. Why? Because gravity is the weakest of all fundamental forces.
This guy hasn't been through higher education in science.
Gravity is a force again?
Yep.
Hold on.
And it's not, even when it was claimed to be a force, it wasn't one of the fundamental forces.
That's what I'm saying.
It's an emerging force.
That was my point, Brian. He's miscategorized it, hasn't he?
Yep.
It's not fundamental.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Given that all pressure differentials and vacuums are described with respect to sea level, how is this helping him again?
It's not. You'll need a flat earth to describe the pressure differential if you're going to go up to the atmosphere, mesosphere. All of these descriptions are with respect to sea level, even though you've inferred sphericity to the air that doesn't have an oxymoronic shape to it. It just fills whatever volume he described at the beginning. But from my point of view, based on my understanding of what you get taught if you're in a higher education in science of any description, at some point you're gonna learn about gravity not being a force. If you've got a higher level of education, he's describing it as a force, which tends to suggest.
His response to Mark. Sorry.
Yeah, this is his response to Mark. Yeah.
But his response is gravity is supposedly the weakest of the forces. Like, how does that help you? Like, what the hell?
But it's not a force, and if you've gone through higher education, you'd know that. So he hasn't. That's the only conclusion I can draw. But yeah, he's described himself like some physicist-y type title. What is it? Real nuclear physicist? Or real nuclear physics? That's actually not ascribing it to him, is it? Now I've misread it at distance on my big screen.
Gravity is proportional to the mass of an object, and the lower the...
Yeah, so it's talking Newtonian.
Mass.
Yeah, what's mass?
This guy is supposed to be a higher level. He's supposed to be real nuclear physicist. That's pretty much as high level as you go as a physicist, I would say.
That's not what he's saying. He's saying the channel's about real nuclear physics.
Yeah, well,
The mass?
how can he be calling gravity a force then?
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Exactly.
the lower the gravitational force.
There's no force of gravity. Quote, Professor Brian Cox. There isn't really a force of gravity at all, end quote. Or George Musa, Scientific American. Gravity is not a force.
But
Could you
that's why
rewind that slightly?
he's doing the second part of George Musa's quote. But you can think of it as a force.
You can think
That's
of it
what he's doing.
as a roast chicken, but it is not a force.
Easy to pick up a pencil, but quite difficult to pick up a mountain.
And very difficult to chase a helium balloon into the air as it
In building molecule-free
He said
chambers,
up again. I object to his use of the word
You
up.
go ahead, John. Make the same objection. I love it.
Out.
Yeah, up is with respect to a horizontal plane of reference. So no, he can't say up. He needs to fix his vernacular.
Yeah, they can't though, can they?
No, it's hilarious. They're stuck. They need a flat earth more than we do.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a good day.
for the manufacturing of electronics, a series of massive pumps are needed to create a 99% vacuum. That's -9 torr.
The negative pressure value just means the pressure inside of the container is lower than the pressure on the outside of the container.
Container.
Yeah, to number one. So you're going to need a container for this. But both of them have got the terminology wrong, haven't they? Did Mark say -9 torr or something? There is no.
He's using atmospheric pressure instead of absolute pressure.
He said that.
That's what he was referring to.
He said negative pressure. Did he not? Listen.
Yeah, he might have.
Just listen again.
Well, now he could have been.
Go on.
There's internal pressures as compared to atmospheric pressures, and they can be described as negative pressures, but they're not. It's just a different way of measuring, but it's not negative.
No, I get you. In old steam engines, right? They'd boost the steam up to something ridiculous like 100 psi, and then it would go through whatever engine it's going through, or turbine or whatever. But then it would be used again at a lower pressure. So let's say it's reduced down to 20 psi. But at some point, those cycles with steam, for instance, can get down to like 6. In other words, it's lower than atmospheric pressure, but it's still at pressure and therefore still useful. They can still generate energy with it or turn a turbine with it or whatever until it's, depleted beyond its useful, purposes. And then presumably they turn it back into water or whatever they do with the steam, right? My point being that just because something's below 14.7 psi doesn't make it a negative value. But that's not the context that he's giving. He's just took Mark Sargent's misspeak and then described negative pressure with it. If you listen back, unless I'm very much mistaken and I misheard what he just said, but if you've got a tyre and you stick the valve on it and it's flat, that is to say, it's at atmospheric pressure both inside and outside the tyre, then it'll be flat, right? But for the sake of argument, if you had a rigid tyre and you started sucking air out of it, you could have a pressure value inside the tyre that was lower than atmospheric pressure. But that doesn't make it a minus value. You're just at 10 compared to 14. That's all that means.
It comes... Sorry, let me just clear this up. It comes from how torr is described. It's described as, what Mark just actually described was 10 to the -9 torr to the minus. So people are taking the minus and the plus, and they're making the plus positive, and the minus is negative. It's gone on with years. So people will often say, incorrectly, but they'll just say it offhand, all kinds of people, negative as opposed to just minus, because of how it's formulated mathematically.
Right.
So that's the problem. It's
sure.
not that
So
anyone's claiming there's minus pressure.
Gotcha. When described as 10 to the minus something, you're moving the decimal place further and further along, which is to say there's less and less particles in a given area. And the further you go down in that minus value would mean there would be less particles in the given area, right? By a division. So you can give it in a minus number when you say 10 to the -17 torr. That's a fraction of the amount of pressure that we've got here at surface level, or 14.7 by comparison if you put it into PSI, right? I don't know what that is in torr. Anyway, the point being
60 is 40.
that when he says -9, Mark, because Mark misspoke, Mark just said -9 torr. And then the guy started blarting on in response to his misspeak about negative pressure. I just want you to hear it once more. I'm just going to play it.
-9 torr.
The negative pressure value just means the pressure inside of the container is lower than the pressure on the outside of the container. Or, in other words, the pressure of an object is lower than the surrounding environment's pressure. Having said that, negative pressure just implies a vacuum.
There is no negative pressure. Just a nonsensical term from a misspeak from Mark, from what I can glean from that.
The more negative the value, the better.
Go on.
I know this because I had to ask Adam about it only a while back, because I was trying to write Tor values out on something, and I had to make sure they were right, because I hadn't written out Tor values before. I'd written everything in PSI. What you're talking about, what Mark was pointing to, is if you wanted to write 10 to the minus 17 or 10 to the minus 9 Tor, there's two ways you could do it, but one way would be 0.009 Tor. So 0.009 Tor. So that's how it works. It would be 10 would be 0.0010 Tor. Do you know what I mean? So when you're talking about when they're saying minus, they don't mean negative. And I don't know why that guy is using the term negative. To me, it sounds like he's trying to make stuff up on the spot there. Because just because the internals of a balloon is less than the external 14.7, let's say the internal of a balloon is 13.7. That doesn't mean that that's technically a vacuum. The vacuums are clearly defined. You get to a low-grade vacuum, which is around 10 to the minus 1 Tor, somewhere, 10 to the minus 2 Tor, something like that is a low-grade vacuum. That's when it starts becoming what's officially defined as a vacuum.
I just can't wait till he gets to the part where he tells us how we have any of this pressure without a container in the first place. Sorry, John.
What he's doing is convoluting the measurement, right? He's using atmospheric pressure as his zero, and anything below that is negative. That's all he's doing.
Yeah, that's what I suggested he was doing. I agree.
Better the vacuum. But if we take space for an example, space is a near perfect vacuum. So there's nothing in the environment of space to compare it to get a negative 10 Tor value. The space between Earth and the Moon has a value of 1 times 10 to the negative 11 Tor.
I'm pretty sure that the gas that we're breathing at high pressure would want to fill that area if that was the case.
You know how he calculated that 10 to the negative 11 Tor?
With respect to sea level?
Absolutely.
Which is not a negative value, just a very, very, very small value.
And for the remaining 1%,
Fair enough. He's just undone Mike and John's criticism of him. Yes, that's correct.
horsepower isn't enough. It can only be achieved by a chemical leaching process. That being said, how is the negative 10 Tor vacuum force of space not ripping off the atmosphere of this world?
The vacuum of space is not ripping the atmosphere of the Earth because vacuums do not suck. They are not vacuum.
Yeah, this guy is literally attempting to just go back in time to 2015 and make a 2015 Flat Earth video a month ago. That's literally all he's doing.
Good.
Vacuum's not taking the air away because vacuums don't suck. Okay, let's just phrase this correctly. Why isn't the high pressure gas we are all breathing not expanding out into the area of volume you believe the sky is?
Exactly.
That's the question.
That's the point I wanted to make, Nathan. We don't care if they make a false claim. Correct them. And that correction is the point that the gas will expand at great force. Sometimes, if there's nothing to impede it, like other pressure, the gas will expand into the volume. Yeah, of course, vacuums don't suck, mate. We agree with you. Gas expands to fill the available space.
Well, if you're sucking something with a straw, you're creating a vacuum. That sucking is a vacuum. You're creating a pressure differential. So to suck,
yeah, but you create the pressure differential by sucking. What forces the thing is air pressure created by you creating a void at the other end of the straw. At that point, the air pressure externally pushes the fluid up.
Yeah.
Are you saying you suck, Brian?
Okay. Well, this guy is trying to answer things that are not the point. The point is, why is all this high pressure gas not diffusing into this lower pressure area that he's claiming exists, that of basically zero resistance?
Quick shout out to Roger Ledwell, who says, nuclear what? Yeah, physics. He's claiming to be a physics-based channel. So I can probably hear the banging in the background as my wife makes me coffee. We've gone over the normal live stream show time, so I'm happy to carry on, though, if you guys are, because I think this is worthy of a live audience, especially as I'm getting super chats. Thank you, Roger. You guys happy to carry on? Yes, Nathan, we're all really keen to cover the rest of this video.
Why would we not?
That's a stupid question.
It's not a stupid question. You guys might want to just chit-chat in the after show. I don't know.
What about the QE one? What about the quantum eraser video we got? QE's here.
I think I am going to move on to that, if that's okay with you guys. What do you think?
Why?
Why can't we just stay on this moment, please?
See, QE. This is definitely that's why I asked, Brian. See, some people might not want to move on, even though that wasn't an option that I gave at the moment that I asked that question. But that's not important at all. So do we want to move on to the quantum eraser video? Because we're live, we've got a live audience, and we've got quantum erasers out here.
No,
stay with this one.
Okay, fine.
I don't know which one this one is, but stay with the one you're doing.
Well, I can do a call to action. It's very good timing. I can say to let this guy know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, if you are watching in the live stream chat, as I've got it up for that super chat. So I will paste in a link to his video. While I'm doing this call to action, literally, as you hear this, go and click on that video right now and leave him a comment and say, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, he responded to your video about Mark Sargent. And the idea is, hopefully, he'd put a link to my video if he was to do a response, so we can gain some algorithmic traction where YouTube offer us none at Congress's behest. Nevertheless, yeah, go and let me know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. The name of the channel is just Real Nuclear Physics. That's the name of the channel. The video that we're covering is called Answering Mark Sargent's Dumb Science Questions from 2018.
I think it's Real Nuclear Physicist.
Huh? Physics. Real Nuclear Physics is the name of the channel. So, yeah, our accusations at the beginning of this where we're like, you can't call yourself a physicist, you don't know anything about physics. Why aren't you even calling Mark on his inappropriate use of these words when asking science to answer questions? Well, no, his channel's called Real Nuclear Physics, which isn't necessarily ascribing himself any credit that he shouldn't have, like Professor Dave.
No, he does. This guy, as far as I know, he is basically claiming to be a nuclear physicist.
I feel like Nathan's stalling for time because he don't want quantum eraser to chew Mark's hind end.
I'm waiting for the people to return after the call to action. There's been people who've clicked away. I've literally just told my audience, go away from my video, leave them a comment, and when they come back, they want to hopefully, from past experience, know that we're still waffling about this guy and the call to action and going out and asking him to make a video about me or telling him that I've made a video about him or whatever it is I'm asking the audience to do. They just want to come back and hear us still talking roughly about that in like 30 seconds when they've all gone and done what I've asked them to do. So yeah, I am chewing out time, but not for that reason.
Does QE know that this is a 2015 video that was responded to in 2024?
I was just going to say the same thing. We're going to ignore a quantum eraser video. We'll quantum eraser here and do a low-hanging 2015 video about Mark Sargent. Great.
Okay, just for the audience's benefit, when we say 2015 video, to be clear, what we mean is he is covering 2015 flat earth concepts that were put out in the Feast of Nonsense when we all, or some of us, arrived here. Now, this video's a month old. In 2024 now, it's a month old, but 2015 references the fact that it's very old-fashioned style of argumentation that he's trying to rebut, and that's why he's cherry-picked a 2018 video from Mark Sargent to answer questions about reification by Mark, and as I've already disclosed, I've subsequently spoken to Mark about science, and I'm pretty certain he's far more refined in what he puts out there these days. But this is very early doors for even Mark in 2018, I would say. But he's cherry-picked this out so that he can have an easy 2015 experience in terms of videography. This is easy for him to make. He's boshed this out in no time.
Vacuum cleaners. Gravity keeps the atmosphere from escaping.
Now, gravity's not a force. Atmosphere is an oxymoron. And as for escaping, gas doesn't go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash. Gas expands in all directions to fill whatever volume, like the volume you described earlier when describing space. Well, if space was a volume for gas to fill, gas would fill it. Gas expands in all directions. Your recontextualization of Mark's description of this argument in 2018 to vacuums don't suck. What, therefore, gas go down, go boom, boom with a non-force of gravity? This is total garbage.
And as you go up in elevation, the atmospheric pressure gets lower and lower.
How is that gas going down, go boom, boom? Okay, yeah, we've got gas getting less as you go up because it's not produced up in the sky. But it's going up.
The gradient.
Well, the gradient is a demonstration of gas dispersion, though, isn't it? It's produced at ground level and it's dispersing up into the area above it, according to his description he's just given. Okay, so that's gas expanding upwards, in total defiance of the thing he claimed, his crappy 2015 argument.
That's
Well,
what's
that's
called
called claim
a pressure gradient.
Where did he get elevation from?
Hey, John, where did you get elevation? Refracted.
What?
Go, John, go.
Was
Go,
the
John, go.
elevation refracted?
I was calling out to refracted to answer your question. Can you ask your question again and hopefully refracted curvature will give you a response?
Well, Mr. Nuclear Fuzzy-haired nuclear physics guy said elevation. Where did he get that from?
Horizontal plane of reference.
Nope.
Gonna need a flat earth for elevation. It's not talking about in and out, is he? Roger Ledwell, another shout out to you, my friend. Thank you very much. Real what? Bad hair day? Are you talking about me? Half mine's fallen out. Thank you for the super chat.
Now, atmosphere. And as you reach the upper part of the atmosphere, the pressure gradient is so small that it's basically a vacuum.
It basically doesn't carry on dispersing into the area it's been dispersing into to become gradiated. No, that's a violation of the second law of thermodynamics, my friend.
Thank you. I was going to say, basically, it's a second law of thermodynamics violation.
What is gravity?
It's a non-force force that you can think of as a force that used to be a force 109 years ago and is now Einsteinian conceptual fourth-dimensional space-time bending. How's that, Mark? 2024, mate.
And remember,
what it is, we don't know.
We don't know. Yeah, we do. It's bent 4D space-time.
Gases that already defy it, like helium, hydrogen, and fluorocarbons.
It's gases.
These gases do not defy gravity.
No, there is no gravity to defy. There's no natural phenomena to observe. Meanwhile, gases do expand in all directions in spite of your second law of thermodynamics violation that you just gave us a second ago. You just saying, well, gas just kind of goes up to the highest levels and then becomes a vacuum in violation of entropic law. No, it's not going to be the case that we take your statements and use them notwithstanding of this claim that nothing's going to overcome the non-force of gravity, or they're not non-defiant of the force of gravity. There is no force of gravity. Professor Brian Cox, there isn't really a force of gravity at all.
In fact, they work exactly.
Go on.
Yeah, this guy is just doing the same as all the other borders do and don't learn anything. They just don't learn anything. The pressure gradient has nothing. And yeah, people like Sabine Hossenfeld are coming out on her own videos, correcting her own mistake for claiming that the pressure gradient had anything to do with a gravity gradient, right, or whatever they want to be claiming. It's just, she even corrected herself on that was wrong. The pressure gradient has nothing to do with that. It's got to do with temperature. It's got to do with thermal columns. It's got to do with convection cells and gas cycles. It's got to do with the sun. It's got to do with all kinds of things. But you know what has nothing got to do with a claim of some stupid claim of a force that doesn't exist. Has nothing to do with that. This guy is just the same as the rest of them. No learning. Just, this is what people on my side say, so that must be what's correct. An idiot.
Yeah, and to have all of those things that you just described, you would need containment first to develop gas pressure, to develop convection, to develop heat cycles, and various other things that we experience in reality. First, you need the gas to be able to press on something. It must be contained. In spite, as I say, of this guy's violation of second law of thermodynamics description of gas just expanding up into higher elevations, getting thinner, and then just turning into a vacuum. No, gas fills space. If areas of volume are available to the gas, then they will fill it.
Yeah, that vacuum and that temperature, along with the gas pressure, they will also need a solid container.
So what you're saying is that this physicist is just your average skank and file baltard. Is what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah, I don't even know if he's a physicist at this stage. He's just your average bozo.
Yeah. Well, no, I wouldn't even say he's your average skank and file baltard. I'd say he's stuck in 2015, responding to the oldest of the old arguments, the lowest of the low-hanging fruit that there is, the most commonly available rotten fruit that you can scrape off the dirty, pooed-on floor. That's what he's responding to and doing a bad job of it. You can't really call him the same level as the skank and file globetards. Most would do a better job than him.
You know, his description of a second law of thermodynamics violation is with respect to a flat plane anyway.
Yeah, that's true.
What's this idiot doing?
Proving a flat Earth in 2024. Another shout out to Roger Ledwell. Says, moments atone the campfire. I think he means around. Moments around the campfire. I don't know what that means, but thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate the support.
In a gravitational field. I'm going to use a word that flat earthers are quite fond of using to try
the stereotyping fallacy?
Try and disprove gravity. And that's buoyancy. Yes, helium balloons rise, but they do not indefinitely rise. And
gases expand in all directions in all circumstances. It's a law of nature. He's just going to keep violating the second law, isn't he?
Wait, the word that flat earthers like to use. You mean the word that Glovers like to use when they're describing something not going down? Is that what he means?
That's exactly what he's talking about.
What he means is, if I put this gas in a container and it goes up, it won't go up forever because it's in a container. Right.
Yeah. What he's about to do is get everything. He already did get everything wrong. He's about to totally mischaracterize the situation. A helium balloon will go up and keep going up until it reaches a certain point. Then it'll bust, and all the helium inside of it will expand out to fill the available volume. That's what will happen. It won't just go up and then just start coming back down again, because that's what he's trying to employ. That's not what happens in reality, buddy.
The reason they rise is because there's an intrinsic force pulling the more dense atmosphere downwards.
So his explanation is the atmosphere is pulled down. So sphere-shaped air, oxymoron, goes down. No, your own description had gas dispersing upwards, getting thinner as it does so. So no, gas isn't going down to force other stuff up. Gas expands in all directions, and in our experience, starts at ground level and exclusively goes away from it in an upward vector. Yes, some of it might bounce off other gases and come back down again, but ultimately, all of it is going up, without exception. So your suggestion that gas is what poured in from sky factories of gas to make the other gases go down, gas doesn't behave like that. It's very stupid. It's along the lines of an idiot named Thunderfoot, who described gas behavior by pouring solid bouncy balls into a fish tank to suggest that gas go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash, like solid bonded bouncy balls, when unbonded gas does not do that. It expands to fill whatever volume it's got. It's a law of nature. PV equals nRT. What do you think the V is?
Helium reaches a height where the atmosphere above it is less dense than helium itself, so the balloon does not rise anymore.
So he's convoluting the two. Who called it? Convoluting the contained gas in a balloon versus the gas and its behaviour. Who called
I think
that?
that was John Refracted.
Yeah, John.
Stopping it from escaping into space? You guessed it, it's gravity.
So gas go down, go boom, boom. No.
Gravity!
No, gravity's not a force. Gas doesn't go down, go boom, boom. It's not poured in from sky, factories. It's produced at ground level and goes up and expands to fill whatever volume it's got.
Isn't it more logical to suggest that the atmosphere is being contained in an enclosed, pressurized system?
It's about logical. It's an antecedent consequent relationship. There must be containment.
They had no answer.
Well, if you think about it, gravity is our container.
Gravity's not even a force.
Oh,
That's funny.
there we go.
All right, I
Gravity's the
guess you can
container.
probably move on from this.
Yeah.
Gravity is
You
the
just
thing
wanted to do it.
preventing the atmosphere from escaping. The fact that you keep
Escaping what? The non-existent containment and the gas going down, go boom, boom from the sky factories for it, pouring it in. No, gas expands in all directions and is produced at ground level and goes up. It's not going down. There is no downward bias to gas. It's not like dropping a pencil. Yeah? When Neil deGrasse Tyson examples gravity, he drops his mic. Why? To demonstrate it's going down. You're saying gas does that. Yeah? Have you never experienced flatulence? Does it pool in a little puddle below you? Or does it expand throughout the volume and eventually dissipate? That's what gases do.
saying they had no answer at the end of each question makes me think that either they had answers, you just couldn't understand what they were saying to you, or you made the whole thing up.
Number 3, eclipse shadow. Mainstream.
Or the guy knew that those type of answers are nonsense and there's no point in giving them to Mark Sargent because Mark Sargent would just laugh at him. Or that's the case. Just like that guy that Mark Sargent was interacting with or had a thing with, this PhD, this professor guy, he would definitely not give us those answers because he knows that we would laugh him out of the room.
Gotcha. That's what Roger Ledwell's last super chat was about when he was talking about being cozied up at the fire. And he's clarified it with his most recent super chat. Just brings back memories, getting warm and fuzzy. Yeah, now I know what you mean. Now you've contextualized it. Thank you for the super chat, Roger Ledwell. Yeah, exactly. It brings back memories of these crappy old arguments from way back when.
Science tells us the moon is over 2,000 miles wide, and yet during the 2017 American eclipse, no offense, the moon's shadow was only 70 miles wide. A
Moon shadow? What now?
reduction of over 97%.
I've already made a video on shadows and why the moon's shadow appears so much smaller than the moon.
I've made a video on shadows, therefore what we experience in an eclipse is definitely a shadow. Why? How are you going to demonstrate that something we do not physically see is occulting the sun? Go ahead.
Because the angle of incident of the light as it strikes the surface of Earth is small. They presuppose the moon to be, so that's how they reconcile that with a number and penumbra.
Oh, that's reconciled by the angle difference off a flat plane?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome.
So obviously this can't be the first video about flat Earth that this guy's made because he's already. What did he just claim? That he made a video explaining why the moon's shadow, in quotes, is smaller than what the moon is supposed to be? He's already done that. So this is not his first flat Earth video, I suppose.
Hey, Eli.
That doesn't have to be a flat Earth attack, though, does it? It's just, see, that is just a recognition that in reality, when we have shadows, they conform to certain rules with regards to relationship to the size of the object. But it's obvious to a heliocentric that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, something's not stirring the Kool-Aid, so he had to make a video to actually stir the Kool-Aid. God.
Moon itself. So please just go have a look at it. Here's a quick recap. The dark part of the shadow, called the umbra, is the part that we see during the eclipse. Now that's so much smaller than the moon because the sun is so much larger and further away than the moon is.
Uh-oh.
Well, you'll need a flat Earth for this. You know, you're going to extrapolate this from Kepler and Huygens and their scale. But their scale and radial value inference for Venus in the case of Huygens comes from a flat Earth measurement of radius when it comes to angles to Polaris. So if you're going to call this a success in heliocentrism, you can ascribe that success to the measurements that derive from flat Earth.
But that's not what they're doing here. What the ballers do here, if I just want to remember this correctly, is they'll have a big light on a small object, and that shadow from the object will be whatever, diverting out. And I think, if I remember correctly, they pull the big light back really far while holding the small object where it is, and that causes the shadow to get smaller than it was. Something like that. I remember seeing this in the past, but it's a heap of nonsense. It's like, it's about the movement of the light source in distance from the object, kind of thing. But they have to move it. It is not analogous to what they're trying to claim, if you know what I mean, in any way. But they try and make it as if it's an excuse.
Right, any last words before I round up for the live stream and ask him to stay tuned? Nope. Fair enough. With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned, as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So another massive thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Of course, a massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley. Stay tuned if you're watching an after show, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!